From seed to shipment, from small business to big sale, this is Trade Routes. We're your hosts, Addie and Tiffany. Every month, we talk about how a product produced in the Western U.S. makes its way to global markets. We also dive deeper into specific aspects of international trade. On today's episode, we're taking a journey from the vegetable fields of the Southwest to your taste buds as we chat about sauces. We'll be joined by Stacy Moritz, owner of Oregon City-based brand Secret Aardvark, and Erick Garman, Trade Development Manager from the Oregon Department of Agriculture. Let's dig into the story of how Western U.S. sauces are going global.
Welcome back to all of our listeners. We are really excited to be here for episode 2 of Trade Routes.
Yes.
So this is officially our transition into our themed episodes. Just to give you guys a heads up of what's coming, we'll have a theme each month, and that theme will include one interview episode and one kind of deep dive episode where Addie and I will talk about that specific aspect of international trade within that theme. Mm-hmm. So this month's theme we're really, really excited about is sauces. Sauces are kind of something we find all over the world, obviously very popular here in the U.S., and we're really excited to talk about all things sauce today for our interviews with Erick and Stacy.
Definitely. And I think a little bit of the inspiration for this episode, like why we picked sauces as the first one, it's just that both of us really like sauces, really like trying new ones. We thought it would be a fun thing to start out with and would showcase kind of some of the diversity around all of our different member states. So yeah, we thought it would be fun. We wrote the podcast, so why not? I would also definitely describe myself as kind of a sauce fiend. Like there are some foods where I just like don't want to eat it if I don't have a sauce, like a chicken nugget or a French fry.
Oh.
And we also have a lot of sauce companies that participate in WUSADA programs.
Yeah, totally. Sauces are a very popular target for international trade and kind of cultural tie across the world too. You know, you can't really go anywhere in the world without seeing some kind of sauce out there. You think Italy, they've got hundreds of different, pasta sauces. Mexico has all their different salsas that we all love. France, you have bechamel and hollandaise sauce. India, you've got all the different curries. Vietnam, of course, has sriracha, which we all know and love.
Yeah, do you remember the sriracha shortage that happened during COVID?
Oh, yeah. And that was a big deal in my household in particular. We are big sriracha fans over here.
Me too. And when I was researching the podcast, I actually realized that was very tied to Western U.S. agriculture, which I thought was pretty cool. It turns out that the original supplier for the sriracha red jalapeno peppers that Huy Fong, like kind of the main sriracha brand, used, that supplier was based in California. But a little bit before COVID, they kind of went through a bit of a breakup with Huy Fong. So Huy Fong shifted their sourcing to Mexico. But when everybody became obsessed with sriracha during COVID, at that same time, Mexico experienced a drought, which limited the production of red jalapenos. So paired with all the shipping challenges at that time and the issues with drought and production, Huy Fong couldn't find enough peppers to make enough hot sauce to meet the demand. And so we saw a lot of competitors popping up to fill that space, especially like within the Western U.S., where they actually could access these red jalapeno peppers. So yeah, fun little tie to the Western U.S. from a very global brand. And that goes both ways. You know, they're brands in our WUSADA member states that are popular in very far-reaching corners of the world. I mean, we've got our neighbors in Canada, but all the way to Japan and Australia. Social media can take something that has a cult following here and push it out anywhere.
Yeah, totally. Like you said, so interesting that sriracha shortage is connected to our region. And also interesting just the layer of complexities that go into producing a product that, probably the everyday consumer isn't really thinking about, but all of our companies who might be listening in, this is what they're doing every single day, is trying to figure out ingredient sourcing and weather challenges that might affect products and shipping concerns and all the different things that go into producing a product and then getting it to its end user.
I think those are some of the things that we're going to talk to Erick and Stacy about. Not only the day-to-day operations of running a sauce company like Secret Aardvark, but also the process of what the member states do to help get those companies exporting overseas.
Yeah, I'm really excited to dive into these interviews and hear what they have to say about sauce production here in the U.S. and how that affects our export market abroad.
All right, let's get to it.
Stacy, thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited to have you on the Trade Routes podcast and learn a little bit more about what you do at Secret Aardvark.
Thanks so much for asking me.
Well, let's kick it off with what the name Secret Aardvark means and where that came from. I'm very curious to hear your answer on this one, but where did the Secret Aardvark name originate from?
My late husband and I started this business. The polite story I tell people is that it was his favorite animal and he named it that.
Very nice.
Okay. Is there a reason why secret? This is like secret sauce?
Yeah, we've been around 22 years. So hot sauce beyond the standards was kind of unusual. And so it was supposed to be like, it's a secret and it's interesting and it's fun, right?
Yeah, very cool. So you said you've been around for 22 years. I think that's kind of a substantial amount of time, especially for a sauce company. I know sauces are very trendy right now and very popular in the cuisine world currently. But having been established for so long, can you tell us a little bit about how you got started in sauces and why that was kind of what you and your late husband were drawn to initially?
Yeah, he was a restaurant guy, owned a local restaurant in the Portland area, always had done things like pirate cooking and interesting food. And he grew up in California, Southern California. So loved hot sauce, was making hot sauce at the age of like 13. So yeah, I think that's the original habanero. He started when he was about 13 or 14 years old. So his mom has some pretty great stories of the messes he would make. And I corroborate on that because he used to make huge messes in my kitchen too.
How funny. So do you have a culinary background as well? Or did you kind of get pulled into the world?
No, I'm a nurse. I'm a nurse with an MBA and ran healthcare divisions. I left healthcare about 11 years ago to just do this. When Scott passed in 2009, I thought I'd just have this cute little business that I ran on evenings and weekends. I used to deliver sauce in a suit on my way to work. And it got to the point where I was like, I need to make a choice. Either I have to hire somebody to run it or I need to just run it. And so I left my day job with all of the benefits and the safety umbrellas, right?
Yep.
And now all I do is sling sauce.
All right.
Very
So
cool.
you're head aardvark.
Yes. I've been called a lot of things. Never had aardvark, but I can
really? Okay.
than some of the other ones. Yeah.
Erick, thank you so much for being here on the Trade Routes podcast. We're really excited to talk to you today about sauce companies and your experience working with those companies to prepare for export.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You mentioned before we hit record that you had some background in TV production. Curious how it was that you ended up in the world of ag exports.
Well, I grew up in the Midwest and I grew up in agriculture. So I spent most of my youth and into my teenage years working on farms, working in agriculture. And so I'm familiar with agriculture. As I got closer to graduating from high school and then going to college, I had a sort of a natural ability of communications or another word, a gift of gab. And I found myself after graduating from high school going into advertising. And that career brought me out to the West Coast and working in advertising along with in television. And so throughout my career, I found myself working closely with food products, agriculture, and the great opportunity with working in advertising, you could be creative and you could work with clients and different businesses that you wanted to. And so I found myself working with agricultural businesses, food businesses, and then finally the Oregon Department of Agriculture, which translated into a career. And so I have been with the Oregon Department of Agriculture now going on 11 years, and it allows me the opportunity now to work really closely with food companies, particularly on trade and export.
Very cool.
That sounds like there are a lot of skills that you could translate from your career in advertising to helping food companies. So maybe can you tell us a little bit more about your role with the Oregon Department of Agriculture and what sort of services you do provide to companies?
So my role at the Oregon Department of Agriculture, I'm a trade development manager, and my responsibilities really are to help expand opportunities for Oregon food and agricultural businesses. At the same time, some of my work is facilitating business-to-business trade events, trade shows, buyer introductions to businesses. I also do some targeted global outreach as well as conducting market access work. And what the market access work involves is working with government to government agencies in different countries to help reduce trade barriers for companies, particularly commodities that are looking to expand into new markets that they're currently not selling in. I'm fortunate that I work not only in international markets, but also local, regional, domestic markets, which allows me to really work with companies where they are. And what that means is companies that may not be ready to export, but they're looking to expand in different parts of the United States before they export. We can kind of help them along the way.
Okay, Stacy, as head aardvark, can you walk us through a flavor decision for the company? What makes you say, like, yes, this is definitely a new Secret Aardvark sauce versus, nah, I don't think we've hit it? And I guess how has that process evolved over time?
Yeah, I mean, Scott was a chef, right? Mm-hmm. And I just learned a lot. And when you're with a chef and with somebody who cooks like that, married to a chef, you get a lot of exposure. And I think I was a cook, right? And like my meatloaf was so much better than his ever was. But I think what that means is that you come with some natural, like, flavor ability, understanding what works and what doesn't work. When Scott would create a sauce, there were many iterations and many wild different flavors and things like that. I tend to look more at what is aardvark? What is our flavor profiles? What do we look for? We're not a vinegar-based sauce. I'm not saying we don't have vinegar, but that's not our forward flavor. And so you're not going to see that from me, right? I'm not going to make a Tabasco-esque sauce, something like that, because that's not who I am. That's not who Aardvark is. I try to stay true to what our flavor profiles are. I try to stay true to real ingredients. You don't find extracts and things like that in our sauce. That's really important to us. But I try to stay in something that is, like, interesting and unexpected.
So you said you're not a vinegar-based sauce. Can you tell us a little bit about the, like, typical profile of a Secret Aardvark sauce?
Yeah, we tend to be more vegetal. So tomatoes, onions, carrots, those kinds of things. I have one that we did for the Pickles baseball team, local baseball team.
I've seen that on the Instagram.
Yeah. And it's pickle flavor, right? I was making buffalo sauce for my granddaughter. I have a granddaughter that loves buffalo sauce. And I said, how about we try to make a green one? And so I did, and she loved it. And then when the pickles came to me, I was like, well, that's the perfect pairing, right? I'll just add pickle juice to it, which was way more complicated than you think it is. and I'll do that and try and come up with the sauce that way. And it turned out to be great, but that's kind of far from where we usually are. We usually tend to be thicker, chunkier, but it's still unexpected and it's still unique. Unexpected without being something that's like, I don't know, something inedible, right? We want you to be like, oh, that's a surprise, and it's great.
Yeah, I think finding that balance between something unexpected and surprising, but still approachable for consumers is where you've hit that sweet spot, and that's really cool to hear.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about your ingredient sourcing and what your supply chain looks like?
Yeah, that's evolved over 22 years, as you can imagine. Originally, we sourced from farmers markets, and locally we did a lot of, back in the day it was called cash and carry. It's now Chef's Warehouse or Chef's Store, and we bought a lot of ingredients like that. Now everything is under contract for us because we are 22 years old. And so we try to buy as much local or as close as we possibly can, for a lot of reasons, And so, we contract for our tomatoes, we contract for our carrots and onions and ginger and garlic and peppers, right? Peppers are the thing that's harder to get local. We are large enough that I can't buy peppers and stand around and take the seeds off or take the stems off and cut them up and put them in a sauce. I need it to come in a mash. So we work really hard to find a really solid, ethical source as close as we can. But for peppers, that's not usually in the U.S.
It's cool because, like, WUSADA supports different groups of businesses, everything from something that's a consumer-facing value-added product to the individual farmers and ranchers. So it's really cool knowing that, like, a product on your level of the value added is also still going back and supporting those local producers.
Yeah, our carrots come from the Willamette Valley. So right here, out my back door practically.
So It's no secret that there is kind of an explosion of specifically hot sauce brands right now. You know, everybody's watched Hot Ones. What's your take on like that heat competition of trying to just push it further and further versus like really leading with flavor?
Yeah, there's a lot of science behind people who like things super, super hot, and the chili heads. I love them. They're so much fun to watch. We aren't chili heads. We are flavor. We're food. So our approach has always been, let's make it taste great, right? Now everybody says that, oh, it's hot sauce, but it tastes great. Well, we've been doing that for 22 years.
What would you say the hot sauce community is like? There are so many brands out there. Like, how do y'all interact with one another?
You know, I have such great relationships with so many hot sauce brands. We have a hot sauce festival here in Portland in August. It's always the hottest weekend of the year.
Seems appropriate.
Yeah. And like, if you walk into my little warehouse out here, you'll find several hot sauces have stored their equipment here because it's so expensive to ship back and forth. And I'm like, sure, let's just put it up in the mezzanine. It'll be fine. Right. And that's what I find the hot sauce community to be. Now, I don't have any friends at, you know, the big ones, but I'm sure the people at Cholula and Tabasco are really, really nice.
That's awesome. I love that there's such a strong sense of community across the industry. That's really good to hear.
Even across country. Like, I have friends that make hot sauce in Canada, and they're lovely, I think, for the most part. And maybe it's because we were so niche for so long, right? We were so excited to have people. Is kind of how I feel about it. And now hot sauce is not as niche as it used to be. No. But we're still excited to have people.
Very cool. Erick, I am assuming you're working with a wide range of products. We're, of course, here to talk about sauces today. So I'd love to hear a little bit more specifically about your experience working with sauce companies.
Yeah, so sauce companies are quite in quite abundance. Advantage of being a sauce company is that you can easily find production opportunities, co-packing opportunities, as opposed to sometimes some other more complicated products. Many sauce brands really are a passion project, how they begin. Maybe it's rooted in family recipes, or maybe it's traditions, cultural traditions. And in many cases, the stories I hear, they're encouraged by families and friends to start this new company. And what's exciting about this is that a lot of these brands can be scalable. Once these companies find their niche, whether it's in retail or food service or local, domestic, export, there really is an opportunity for these companies to grow.
Okay, so with all of that in mind, you know, with the family and encouragement, their friends telling them this is the greatest thing ever, what makes the sauce company a prime target for exporting? Like, why is that such a good thing that seems to do really well on the export markets?
Well, similar to why a sauce company will start, it's rooted in culture, it's rooted in the region, and many times countries outside of the United States are very interested in the U.S. culture. And what's even more exciting is sometimes those cultures are very similar to the cultures in these export countries. For example, if you had produced an Asian sauce into similar countries as where it was rooted, and that the U.S. twist and the U.S. high quality of ingredients and also the quality that comes out of the United States is exciting for some of these countries to take on these products.
Yeah, I could definitely see like maybe a new take on something that's really familiar to the export target market country being really exciting and kind of drawing them in, of maybe Absolutely. Like the American twist to something that they're really familiar with. And I love that you use the word rooted, because that's a key component of our podcast, is really like figuring out the roots of these products and how they might come from communities with different cultural backgrounds, different experiences, but still they all find a way to be rooted in the West.
Absolutely.
So let's say a sauce company comes to you and they're interested in exporting. How do you know if that company is ready to start exporting? And if they're not ready, how can you help them get there?
Well, that's a really good question, Tiffany, because a lot of times companies aren't ready to export. And I just want to make that clear. I know that this is really geared towards export community. This podcast is based on the work that we do with WUSADA and exports. But I think the worst thing for companies that aren't ready to export is to try to export, because it's really complex. And so again, back to the work that I do domestically, regionally, here's where I have an opportunity to talk to some of the companies and mention some of the trends of exporting and why companies are importing products from the United States. In many cases, for retail packaged goods like sauces in particular, importers want to see success in the United States. So if you can be successful in the US and you can manage distribution, you can manage production of your product, consistent basis, you can manage your labeling, you can manage your regulatory parts of your business. This is very attractive to importers because a lot of that work's done. And so I see it as you're selling an XYZ retailer or XYZ food service group. I'm interested in importing you because you can manage that already.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That success in the U.S. as a foundation is a really key step to begin that abroad journey of selling your product as well.
I do want to add, though, that some companies do enter the market just for export. So I don't want to discourage companies not to look at export as a place to start. But traditionally, most of the companies see success in the United States first.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Definitely. I mean, I think in any sort of situation, nobody wants their business partner to make their lives harder. I can see why the importers want to know that the exporting groups are capable of handling the demands of getting to a new market, because it really is a lot of logistics.
Let me give you an example of a smaller company that was looking to export, and I wanted to encourage them to visit with buyers that were coming to the United States looking for businesses to purchase for their business and be exported. This particular company was producing their own product in their own facility, and they were doing a really good job to provide enough product to really cover the market locally and regionally. However, when the importer wanted to try this product, they asked for this company if they could come up with a container load for a trial period. Oh. Now imagine a small company that's used to maybe making a pallet at a time. Now there's a request for an entire container load. It can be overwhelming. So you really do have to be ready for it.
Yeah, that's so true. And we're going to talk about some of those logistics of shipping and packaging in our complement episode to this one, actually. So stay tuned.
Erick, where do you see the biggest opportunities for sauce companies looking to export right now? Are there any particular markets that you think are really growing big markets for sauce companies?
Yeah, so I think that anywhere that American brands are popular, I think Asia is a popular region for American products. Sauce companies, if it fits the profile, of course there are many, many different types of sauces, but if it fits the profile of that particular country or that particular region, I think there's opportunities. I think there's opportunities in Canada. They're very similar to the United States in terms of their taste profiles.
Is it typically easier for a company to start out exporting to, Canada or Mexico, or do some of the companies tend to, make the jump overseas right from the get-go?
I think it really depends. Being on the West Coast, the access to Asia it's a lot easier than maybe other parts of the United States. And that population is so massive. There are a lot of opportunities in Asia. Canada is really a great opportunity because it's our next door neighbor. They have high disposable income. So launching into a region that has disposable income, understands the, what the taste profiles and what the different product opportunities are into the market, I think is always good. Mexico's a growing country in terms of new products, new retail products coming in for the United States. As long as you can make the price points work, I think North America sort of just trading amongst itself is really important and can be lucrative. Right now, the dollar's strong. The dollar's been strong for a long time. So sometimes that can affect us as well. But I think overall, if you can find a partnership and it makes sense, Asia, North America, all good regions to sell into.
So you, of course, do a lot of work to help companies promote their products abroad. When you're at something like a trade show, what really makes a company stand out?
Well, I think that what stands out to me personally, now I'm kind of I'm behind the scenes guy, right? So I go to a lot of trade shows. But what sticks out to me, and I think sticks out perhaps to a buyer or an importer, is doing your homework and having some indication that you're working in certain distribution lanes. So, for example, you'll go to a trade show and you post that I am in XYZ distribution, really promoting that, like, hey, I'm going to be an easier company for you to work with because I'm already a part of these distribution groups that you're likely doing business with. So anytime you can make it easy for these buyers to come over and see you, is going to be to your advantage. And as you're branding your company, you may not think about things like that, where you're thinking, well, why would I put a Cisco logo on my booth, or maybe a dot logo or something? It's because you're attracting that buyer's attention, saying, I work with them. That's going to be a lot easier, and their product's interesting. I also like to get their product in their mouth, right? Make sure you have a really good sampling program, and don't be afraid to ask someone if they want to try it. I think that a lot of companies are successful when they're a little further out in front of their booth and really promoting their samples. And then, as easy as you can make it, buyers are so incredibly busy. Unless we specifically bring a buyer over from a country and their job is to sit down with the companies one-on-one, most buyers that attend trade shows, they have a list of what they need to find, and they're going down the list, and that's it. So you have to stick out. And so all these different opportunities and tips that you can put forward on your trade show booth is going to help you stick out. The same goes for if you are preparing for an inbound mission, and maybe it's just a one-on-one meeting at a tabletop. Just up front, having your pricing ready, understanding like what it's like to export to that country. Do your homework. Like, do I have to change my labels? In Canada, I have to have French and English. Okay, know that. And I'll actually take it to the next level and show them some examples of that work, that you are serious about that market. So anytime you can stick out, rather than asking them all the questions all the time, be prepared.
Yeah, I think those are all really, really useful tips. I think my marketing brain went to, how can I make my graphics of my trade show booth stand out? And I think your point of having the logistics really prepared and doing your homework on, here are the price points, here are labels that work for these specific markets, are really the things that are going to attract buyers, because they're looking to make their lives easier. And if they can do that with a specific supplier, that's going to give them all the more reason to go with that supplier.
And Tiffany, it's all important. I mean, your branding mind is not wrong. I mean, you do want to look attractive. Your packaging does need to look attractive, because picture yourself on the shelf. Are you going to stick out on the shelf? And they want you to sell product. Yeah. You also have to be ready to invest. I mean, you go to a trade show and my goal is to sell product, but unfortunately there's a lot more to it. You have to invest in your product in these markets, and that might be promos, that might be having to do some additional marketing and advertising. Fortunately, WUSADA is set up for these export markets to help you with that. And that's another episode, I'm sure. But I really believe that WUSADA can help you with those next steps, and that's what it's designed for.
Yep, that's absolutely the goal, is to help meet exporters where they're at and help them through every step of the export journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those listening to this that are thinking, oh my gosh, well, I'm not ready with the logistics, I don't know what I should be doing for the packaging, like, come to us. That's what we're for. Come to Erick. Yep. Like, that's what we're here to help you with. So yeah, don't be too intimidated. We want to get you to that point to where you're ready to export.
And I just want to add that I'm one project manager of many, many project managers in all the 13 Western states and the territories. And I can give you just as much advice as the next person. And that's the great thing about this program, is that I can be an advisor to you, and we could have someone from our neighboring state also be an advisor to you. So you have a lot of people looking out for your business.
Yeah, absolutely. Stacy, a little bit into the export side of things. I know you've been involved in WUSADA programs and working to promote your product internationally. Can you talk to us a little bit about what the export side of your business looks like and where you're seeing demand for your product internationally?
Right now, that's really tough. It's hard out there with freight being where it is. And it's not just ground freight, right? It's costs diesel to get those ships across. I think the interest will continue to grow internationally. I think people, as they want more exposure to heat, more exposure to spice. The U.S. has always been kind of a leader in that, but other countries have plenty, right? You go to Thailand, you go to Vietnam, they all have hot sauce and it's great. But it's complicated right now, really complicated.
Yeah, no, totally understand that, and understand that it's a very complex environment to work in. And just in general, I think trade is always evolving and changing, and we're obviously hearing about tariffs in the news quite a bit lately. How long have you been exporting your product?
Gosh, that's a real good question. I think about 8 years.
Okay, so you've seen it kind of ebb and flow a little bit over that time, I'm guessing.
When was like a really strong time, and what markets were mostly interested in it at the times where you're like, yeah, it is going really well right now?
Yeah, it evolves in each region, right, in each country, because what's happening in, say, Canada is very different than what's happening in Southeast Asia. So it just depends. But I've seen markets come on. Canada was first, Australia right behind it, and then we work with a distributor out of the Netherlands, and they take us all over the EU.
Cool. I feel like I have seen it over here.
You have. I have some stores in your location. We take it into the UK as well.
Okay.
And so, I was just in Japan, and they were super welcoming and super lovely, but there's not a huge hot sauce market in Japan. And the kitchens in Japan tend to be really small. And so they don't want an 8-ounce bottle of sauce. But you've got a lot of Americans in Japan, and that's where our marketing lies there. A lot of military bases, a lot of people that have moved to Japan, and they're still wanting hot sauce, and they bring it in.
You mentioned in Japan, they have small kitchens, so they don't necessarily want the full 8-ounce bottle.
Right.
When you're exporting, do you change the packaging size maybe to make it a better fit for certain markets, or are you still sticking with that typical bottle size?
We typically stick with the same bottle size because where we're going, like in Japan, we're not targeting the small Japanese kitchen.
Yeah.
If we were, we would look at that. But here's the thing. When you go to Japan, even the Japanese that are buying our product, they're not looking for something that is Japanese. They're looking for something American.
Yeah.
Right? And our packaging really says this is an American product.
Definitely.
I mean, it's loud, and there's a big blue aardvark on it, right?
Yeah, why is the aardvark blue?
What color should he be?
I guess they're kind of gray in real life, but that would be boring.
They are actually related to pigs, and they're kind of brown, because it's not nearly as cute.
Yeah. All right. Have the companies that you've worked with navigated kind of the changing trade landscape? There's been a lot of shifts lately. So how are they adjusting on the move to maybe tariffs or different relationships with markets?
That's a really good question. And I think depending on the company and depending on the product, I mean, what tariff may be affecting what category. I think the biggest hurdle right now, aside from maybe from tariffs, would be distribution. The costs right now are really high. And, as you're negotiating with your export partners, it's coming out of someone's bottom line, right? It's either an increased cost for the consumer, it's an increased cost for the manufacturer, or an increased cost for the broker and the importer. So someone's paying for that. And that's a pinch point. It really just depends on who's able to flex, and if you are able to flex, and if you've got the margins available. And again, before you export, these are all really good things to consider when exporting. It's a tough time, but it's a tough time everywhere. It's not just exporting. I think in general, businesses are getting pinched somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. But I feel like that's also one of the assets to exporting. If for some reason the domestic market's going in a difficult direction, then you maybe have the export market to fall back on, and vice versa. So I think for companies that are in a position and are ready to take that step, it could decrease some of your financial risk.
Yeah, potentially. By all means, head the direction where your product's going to get purchased and where your product's going to be popular. And you're gonna be more profitable.
So this kind of leads into the next thing that we were curious about in terms of shipping overseas. with packaging and storage, do things change when you're shipping domestically versus shipping internationally? Like, is that something that y'all are all doing in-house, or is there sort of a secondary logistics team that you work with to do the overseas shipping? Are you the logistics team? Yeah, can you walk us through any considerations for actually getting your product overseas in one piece safely with nothing wrong?
There are 6 of us at Aardvark, so we are incredibly small. We have Fiona, who does a great job of logistics, and she will do the domestic shipping. So like right now I have an order going to Australia. She'll arrange the domestic shipping to get it to its port. My customers arrange their own, they use a freight forwarder and arrange their own international shipping. Unless it's somebody who we're shipping to like via UPS or DHL or FedEx, right? We can arrange that. But for the most part, if it's going by water, then we leave it to them.
Okay. And I guess that's in your contract with those buyers, right?
Contracts, That's a hard one.
Or maybe that's not how it works.
A lot of it with, because we're not shipping container loads full, right? When you think about it, we're shipping a pallet or two, right? Your contract is you agree upon your terms. And I usually require that they pay in advance for the first couple times, and then you hope they keep paying.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Something might be different for a niche hot sauce brand versus like somebody that's trying to sell like a whole, a bunch of corn, like a bunch of raw commodity stuff overseas.
Here it would be like Bob's Red Mill. Right? Bob's does a lot of export business, and they're a great company. They're one of my favorites. They're right down the road from me. And they ship pallets and pallets and pallets and pallets. And you will see them. We share a warehouse for their international. So I'll see like 25 pallets sitting there with international labeling going to various places. That's a very different thing than what we do. And the turn rate's going to be much higher for flour than it is for hot sauce.
Well, Stacy, we've talked a little bit about your experience with exporting and how it's a bit of a challenging market right now. Where are you seeing the future of exports for Secret Aardvark? What are your kind of goals moving forward with the export world?
The UK is a real growing market for me right now. And when I say real growing, by the way, that means very small, right? I mean, like I say, I'm not shipping container loads of sauce anywhere. So I think the UK is a real market right now. Australia's always welcoming, and I think there's more opportunities there. We lost a distributor, and now we're filling it out with some other people. So I think there are always places. We're not cheap. We are not. We are a more expensive hot sauce because it is tomatoes, carrots, onions, right? Water, salt, and vinegar is cheaper. So it makes it harder to get into some countries where, your grocery bill is $10 a week. Well, you're not going to be selling aardvark there. So you have to really look at who can bear the cost of it and who wants it for us. And so it eliminates a lot of countries that just don't have that background or don't have that base.
Totally makes sense. And it's good to hear that you're still seeing opportunity in some of those big target markets for you in the future.
Erick, now that we've talked a little bit about the companies that might be ready to enter this exporting process, what are some of the interesting trends that you've recently seen involving sauces, either in the U.S. or abroad, that they might be able to fit their product into or might be able to kind of catch the wave of?
Flavor. I mean, like really unique flavors and spices and spicy. I mean, I think that's all trending right now. In terms of the export markets, again, I think it really, a lot of times when sauce companies are exporting, sometimes they're creating a category because although sauces are everywhere in the world, perhaps their twist or their specific taste profile is not something that's available in that country. So at times you can find that some sauce companies are creating a category. Hot sauce is not popular in every country. I mean, we eat a lot of hot sauce, but I think that's within the last probably few decades. But maybe you go further north into Canada, it's not a concept that has been around as long as the United States. And so sometimes new categories in these countries create a buzz. But I'd say in terms of the trends, unique flavors Anything with low sugar, healthy, those are all trends. And that's really trends in the food world in general, the retail packaged food world in general.
All right. Well, I think one last question we have for you. We're curious to hear what your favorite flavor profile is for a sauce.
Do you want one of mine or somebody else's?
Either or both.
I like smoky and hot. My own sauce, I've been eating a lot of the Reaper. I love the Reaper, and it is much hotter than the habanero, and I love the smokiness to it. My favorite non-aardvark sauce, the one that I use at least twice a week, is Smoke and Marie's, and it's a Marie Sharp sauce. So you can see where my palate lies, right? I love hot, and I love not chili head hot. You're never going to get me to do the one chip challenge. It's not going to happen. And I don't eat habaneros by themselves, and I never am going to eat a Reaper by itself. That also is not who I am. I don't need those challenges that, they love to do at the hot sauce events. They're great, but I'm just like, no, thank you. And I love things like we're starting to see, Saucy is a big term right now in hot sauce. I've been using the hot honeys. I make my own hot honey. I don't market it, but I make my own hot honey. And I've been making those for a long time, and I think those are really fun. The fruit flavor is a big deal and has been for a long time. Everybody's like, make a mango hot sauce. And I'm like, me and 27 others. They're like, yeah, but yours would be different. And I test those things out until I find something that works. I tried a banana one.
Good to know.
It looked a lot like what's in a baby diaper. So we won't be doing that. Yeah, it tasted great, but boy, it was ugly. So, for me, it's hot and smoky. That's my favorite profile, right? I can put that on anything or in anything.
Yeah, I love a smoky, chipotle salsa.
Yep.
I'm a big salsa person, and I love the smoky ones.
Yep, me too. Me too.
All right. Well, Erick, is there anything that you feel like we haven't covered about the trade show landscape, or specifically for sauce companies that are looking to get into the exporting game?
I think we covered a lot. I just want to encourage sauce companies to continue to make sauce. I feel like sauce is, you walk down the sauce aisle in the grocery store, and especially some of the local sauces that you can see, it's a great representation of the differences of our makers, in the States here, and that there are different types of sauces. I think the Western United States is really on the forefront of producing these types of entrepreneurial products that stick out and are ready to be export products. So continue to do the hard work and continue to ask questions, and don't be afraid to talk to other companies that are exporting currently, or watch this podcast. I'm sure you're gonna interview exporters that can give you sort of the pros and cons.
Definitely. Thank you for all of your notes. And I think what we covered today is going to be very helpful for exporters looking to get into other markets, or businesses who haven't exported yet, just starting out. All right. Well, Erick, thank you so much for joining us today. I think there are a lot of nuggets of wisdom throughout this episode that businesses and exporters can take away. We really appreciate your time today and all of your insights on exporting for sauce companies.
Well, thank you for having me, and anytime I'm happy to help. And good luck to all the sauce companies watching this, because it is a journey, but it's a good one.
Stacy, there anything else that you feel like we haven't asked you about Secret Aardvark, or the process of being a small business trying to export that you think is important to share?
Yeah, I tell every small company that comes to me, and right now I would say be more cautious, but I tell every company that says, should I look at exporting? Definitely. Things will change again. It may take a while. Don't let that stop you. It's worth it. Just because everything you learn exporting, you can apply domestically as well. And it's just important, and it's an important part of what we do to spread spicy joy to the world.
Spicy joy. I love that. Awesome. Well, I think that's a great place to end it, with spreading spicy joy. I think you'll definitely do that. You do it on social media with your sauces, and definitely abroad. So thank you so much for spreading that spicy joy and for talking to us about it today.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's been fun.
Thanks for joining us on this journey from farm to far away. We'll see you next time for more stories about small businesses and big opportunities. I'm Tiffany, and this is Addie, and you've been listening to Trade Routes, a podcast by the Western United States Agricultural Trade Association. Like what you've heard? Consider subscribing, leaving us a review to help others discover these stories, or reaching out at marketing@wusada.org. To learn more or explore export opportunities for your own business, visit us at wusada.org. That's WUSATA.org.
Have you tried any like crazy sauces? I have seen the like spicy stuff, like the hot honey,
Yeah. I do really like hot honey.
Okay.
Specifically on pizza.
Yes.
I think it's perfect for pizza.
Yeah. I can't get enough of spicy pizzas.
Yeah, I had a hot honey pizza once. It was like a mushroom pizza with hot honey. It was one of the best pizzas I've ever had. It was so good.
Wow. Okay.
It was really, really good.
Okay.